Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, or good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're listening to this. We are in the Alan Buckley suite of Blundell Park. I apologise for my voice. We have just come off a enthralling 1-1 draw, but we will go around the table. And to the left of me, Bruce is perusing the Halifax Town team. How's everything with you?
All good, thank you, mate. Yeah, not too bad. Just grateful we got the result in the end that we deserved, minimum we deserved, really. Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
This is very Vox Poppy, just popping it back and forth. Scott has come back. He's got all his BBC gear with him. He's doing the next 2 games. Am I allowed to say that?
Oh, it's not an exclusive.
It counts as an exclusive with us.
So I'm doing the next 2 games for BBC, and I really enjoyed that. I'm so pleased that goal went in at the end, because it would just put a whole different complexion on this as well. I think,
and the performance as well. The
performance was great. Yeah,
I'm only used to away performances, and that was totally different to what we've had.
And it gets Stockport out my system as well, because that was my last game. Or the last game was Stockport in the FA Trophy, and I was there covering that game.
Are you just trying to do a little bit of a flex? Actually,
I just wanted that game out of my system. I wanted it out of my system because I didn't enjoy that.
Didn't you say, Alex, that they've never won while you've been here as well? So for you, that must be getting. No, but at least we didn't lose.
It's the flag. What was it? They were saying that my the last shot on target I'd seen was 2017, because the game I came to against Exeter, we didn't get one.
We didn't get a shot on target.
Yeah, no. So that first half where the ball was cleared off the line and hit the bar, that doesn't count. That doesn't. And then the man who is not part of the Butchers, and we don't focus too much on that at all. But my dad is here. Andrew, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Very nice to be here and to actually do it in person for the first time rather than over electronic gadgets.
Yeah, I feel a little bit more pressure. I don't know how about you guys doing these face to face, actually. And Jason, thank you very much as well. Thank you for all 3 of you inviting us along, and thank you for joining the podcast as well.
No, thanks. Great to be here. As you said, it's a slightly different. I was a bit nervous, to be honest with you. The idea we make a general rule as a group that we never do anything after games to either make decisions or process stuff until like 24 hours. And so I thought it would be a good idea to get together. I was a little bit nervous about whether this would work or not, but I feel a bit better about it now based on that performance.
Were you going to send us a WhatsApp message at half time when it was 1-0 down going,
let's just wait? I was going to fake a hamstring and just go down the stairs or something. I don't know if we got
the equipment's outside the door. And Debbie, just before she flies off to Tenerife, how is everything with yourself? Did you have a good New Year and Christmas?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it was busy. It was very busy. But yeah, good, thank you.
And perfect. And Hannah, it's boiling in here. How have you still got a coat on?
I have very bad circulation this season.
Yeah, follow that up then, Alex.
Thanks. That's a nice bust you've thrown. And Ian is joining the Fisherman's Friends singing shanty thing.
Yeah,
with your very Christmassy jumper.
It's just a white jumper. What are you trying to do on this side? That side. How was the game for you?
We've got style tips, basically.
I'm not
how
good
was
at
the game?
Yeah,
you're dressed like.
Yeah, you're dressed terribly. Yeah. How was the game for you, Ian? Did you enjoy it?
No, it was like Bruce and Scott both said, it was brilliant to actually get that at the end and put a massively different spin on the performance. Was so much better. And to be fair, the fact that it was a draw has really, really underdone us there based on how it went. Definitely should have been maybe 3, maybe 4.
Yeah, it's absolutely great. I don't know if anybody wants to put something out there first about the performance, put hands up and such, and how they thought. I've not been home game for a while, and it was totally opposite to what we've seen away from home. Really attacking, dominate the play. You could see people were quite rusty at the start of the first half, but you could tell why Halifax are so dangerous. Those balls over the top were absolutely beautiful, and they've got a striker who we have spoken about previously. Going, I would quite like him, which when we were top of the league would have been an attractive offer. Waters especially was such a danger, and from what Halifax did. But if that's second, it's not a bad comparison to it. So I don't know how you guys, Bruce, you go to most home games, and how did that compare to the games previous that you've seen?
It was you say that's the home performances. It was earlier in the season, but I think there was a lot more intensity today to the play, and we moved the ball a lot quicker we looked more of an attacking threat when Coke went off, I thought, and Hunt came on because he moves the ball so quickly and he wants the ball all the time. But no, it was a much better performance. I would say the last two where we've lost narrowly at the end of the game have been workmanlike, but today we were on the front foot and I thought we really went for it. And like you say, it would have been very unjust if we hadn't got something out of the game.
How good is it to see Max Wright back on the pitch again? He looked a class above. His passing was crisp and clear and quick, and he was able to transfer so direct. And one of the few players I see that just goes, fuck it, I'm running. I'm going straight for goal. I don't know. Anybody else got any thoughts about him? He's such a wonderful player that I want to hold on to, and my heart breaks every time he gets injured.
I thought he's a proper impact substitute for us, and genuinely made an impact and a difference. I still fear for his fitness, and I think we need to wrap him in cotton wool and keep bringing him on for the last 20 minutes or half an hour, and he can make a difference in these games, and he did it today. So.
Yeah, he's a joy to watch, and you can see why he was at Scarborough, won player of the year. Boston was the other one, was he? Player of the year?
Yeah, I believe so.
Was it? He just anywhere he goes, he uproots trees. So no, it's fine. I was just playing with it. The bottle. Great. So I mean,
I was just going to say, it does feel though for him. He's in the last year of his contract. He's not played a lot of football. It feels like a really big few months for him because you would imagine if he does break down again, or like Andrew says, we need to look after him. But he's going to have to play some football between now and the summer. You would think for Hursty to take a punt on him again. He's had a couple of contracts, not played a lot of games. We can all see the talent he's got, but he's got to get out on the pitch and be out there regularly, in my opinion.
And I got to say, quite a good atmosphere. Bruce, you're the pillar of the Blundell Park community, saying that this is it. I thought after a quiet first half, they raised their game. Were you at the front leading chants with a microphone or megaphone?
It was the floodlight effect, I think.
Once
we were under the lights, then it all. No, but I thought the fans, the gate was smaller today than I would have expected it for this crowd of the year. But we've got COVID to take into account. We're not on the best of runs. Ordinarily, your bank holiday games over Christmas, you would expect one of your biggest crowds of the season. They bought 300, so we had, what was the crowd, just over 5, wasn't it? So we had 4,700 fans. But once the players, I think the way the performance of the team went, we started cautiously and grew into the game, and I think that the fans reacted to that, and they maybe needed a bit of something on the pitch to get them going, and I thought they did. I thought the players deserved the atmosphere that was generated.
Can I ask Andrew, Jason, Debbie about, do you budget for the crowd figures? So was today a disappointing?
No. I mean, we obviously we're budgeted, but I think the Christmas break. I mean, this was a game. If we're the games that are over the Christmas period, we'd have expected a bigger crowd. And it's a weird one, isn't it? It's like the day before people go back to work. It's on TV, COVID. So it was there or thereabouts. What we thought, slightly lower. If it had been the same game at the same time, off the back of a Christmas run, but it was about what we expected, to be honest. But I think to your earlier point, I think the crowd were behind the team as well, which was good as well. Because you've seen it. I've been in a couple of games where people start moaning and people start having a bit of a groan. It felt like fans were behind them all the way, and with the substitutions, the impact, and the fans getting behind the effort the players bring, it just adds that momentum, doesn't it? So I thought the fans were brilliant today.
And COVID is running riot through the region, exactly. And you've got on BT Sport, you've got an option there. Not to mention, it's the January paycheck. You've got quite a few reasons not to turn up, aside from we haven't won since June.
It's like the night before you go back to school. It's like Sunday night before school, though, as well, isn't it? It's like
the
I'm thinking that, even though it's a weird one. I should be hearing that. Just finish songs of praise. Get the cheese on toast on. Get your bath and your hair shampooed and get ready. Exactly. You're a better child. That's beans on toast there. You've got roast beef. It's made me look into my childhood there.
That's the man with the butchery.
Don't mention it. Don't mention it.
But I suppose any other time, over 5,000 would be a great attendance anyway.
Yeah.
I think the attendance has been that good this season.
I think that's at the beginning of the year, when we started budgeting, we thought between 4.5 and 5 would be sort of what we'd hoped for. And then the beginning of the season, obviously with the performances and the momentum that we had, it sustained that level. So we thought 4.5, 5. But the fact it's been higher than that has been brilliant, actually. I've read elsewhere, it's giving people an easy yes to be part of what we're trying to build collectively. I think people, on the whole, have responded to that. They realise that being supportive from the beginning of the season and being supportive, although critically supportive, which is fine, during a period where we're having a bad run is what you expect from it. It's about supporting thick and thin. But that wasn't a bad attendance. But importantly, the people that were here, I thought really got behind the team, made a difference today.
Yeah, it's. Oh, hang on, what's Bruce? Oh. Bruce is selling stuff later.
Okay,
apparently, he's got Jason and Andrew.
It's the first time I've ever been. Did I see this on eBay, Bruce? Is this like a quick?
You're not going to get many people called Mervyn buying it.
Yeah, that's fair, actually. I'll make sure. I'll put a bid on it. I'll put a bid on it. What
number is it?
This is all slightly weird.
Yeah.
I feel like, do you know what? Can we have a full explanation about what's going on?
I'm told outside the room you know about this, and I've been asked to get it while I was out there.
I know this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know
so
about this,
I don't
wants
know.
you and Andrew on it, please.
Do you know what? Genuinely, as you can see, this is the first time I've ever been asked to sign a shirt.
I mean, with that number and then saying he wants you and Andrew on it, it's not really.
Could you do the 6, Andrew? I don't know.
I don't know how to do this.
When I
It is a
visualise this later,
69
I'll
for
think
those
I'll
of
be
you
the
who
9.
can't.
I did try and walk in and do this without interrupting, but never mind.
I mean, this is very similar to what it was last time, as everybody signed the Linwood shirt. See you later, Bruce. I mean, so it's almost a year. It's certainly been a year in terms of your involvement within the club and how it's been going. How have you found it with a year to sort of reflect upon? How has it differed from your other ventures? And are there not words of warning, but any experiences that you've had from the year that you weren't expecting that have come up?
Do you want to go? Or?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah. I mean, I think it's fair to say that because we get asked from time to time, are you enjoying it? I think enjoying it is sort of the wrong description, really. Certainly, very very different to normal business, I would say. I was thinking about this earlier on, and we have very much different constituencies to deal with. So, if you think about kind of my day-to-day business, you're dealing with shareholders and investors, and you might talk to them regularly, but you would talk to them maybe 3 or 4 times a year on a formal basis. Here, it's not just shareholders to talk to, but also the biggest constituency, which is the fans, and the fans have a view on absolutely everything, as we will no doubt get onto Badgegate later. But it's in all seriousness, we have a completely different constituency that we need to respect and listen to, and that's that's been the biggest change for me. The other aspect I would say is that the sheer volume of different types of decisions that need to be taken, whether it's around players, whether it's around infrastructure, whether it's around food, whether it's around decisions on capital expenditure and so on. It's very very hands on, and until Debbie came on board, Jason and I were wondering what we were going to do. Would we actually be able to get on with our day jobs? But Debbie's thankfully taken a lot of the sort of heavy lifting on a day-to-day basis from us.
Yeah, I mean, I just agree with all that, really. I mean, I've been thinking a lot over the Christmas period. I had a bit of a break, and we kept being asked the question about are you enjoying, as we stated, and it's not enjoyable day to day. But I was thinking football isn't really enjoyable day to day, because football's about sort of rare moments of joy, isn't it? And it's like when people talk about a few years ago, there's all this cult of happiness where people were trying to be happy all the time, which is just a ridiculous state. You'd never want to be happy all the time. With football, you want to be enjoying it all the time. It's about those rare moments where things come together, like just then in the 92nd moment or whatever it was, where you feel actually ecstatic for that brief second where you feel like the universe is fair and there's justice and all those sort of things. So yeah, I've been thinking quite a lot about that, because it hasn't been enjoyable, most of it, but it's really interesting, it's demanding, it's a growth experience for all of us, I think, and it's fascinating, and it weighs quite. We know what we're holding for the whole community. This is such an important part of the community, and that's a real that's a real responsibility that none of us take lightly. So we're thinking about stuff for the long term. As fans, primarily, we want the club to be successful for another 143 years. That's what we're thinking about every day. So it's a little bit difficult, as Andrew said, when, I've been on social media a while, I've thought about technology for the last 30 years. And, we know also about how the brain works, right? Is that there's a lot of people, I've found that there's a wonderful amount of kindness and thoughtfulness and respect in the town community. And then there's a few people that aren't like that. And the way the brain reacts is that that's the stuff that has a greater share of your mindset. And so, I've been thinking a lot about that there's some pressure associated with that, where everyone sort of, we want critique, we want a debate, we want discussion. As fans, that's what we're about. I think I wrote in my first blog post for God Almighty, I'm like, we won't always get it right. This is new to us as well. We'll hold hands up when we don't, but let's do it from a place of respect. And that hasn't always happened. I think there's some people that don't think about it. But I actually I was talking to my kids about this. When I see people shouting on social media, I actually worry about them. I think, what's going on in their lives? That their first reaction is, negative or anger or stress. And I'm like, there's a lot of pain in people's lives, I think, where when you see something you don't agree with, your first reaction is to call someone a bell end, or I've had that one a couple of times, or make a judgment about. There's one about that we're spending the club's money that existed before we got. We're 3 million quid in the hole at the moment, so this is our family's money. So when people talk about cough up Stockwood, buy a stock, like, we care about this stuff. Or the other one that I love is the trade-off between, the stuff about the badge or flag hate, is the idea that we're spending all our time thinking about, should we put a flag on the crest, and we couldn't give a shit about the playing staff and the football and the academy and stuff. So, the idea that people would suggest that stuff, if I step back from it, I go, that's actually quite sad. I feel quite sorry for people that they actually would assume that we're sat here with the careers that we've had and the love that we have for the club and the town, and the fact that we're torching our kids' inheritance off the back of this, is that we'll be doing it. The other one was Rich, wasn't it? Rich, who's done the crest, one of the top designers at Apple, one of the best countries in the world, and someone commented, that's more money down the drain, someone that's took 2 years to come up with a flag. I'm like, really? Did you really think that's what we'd spend time on? But anyway, the flip side of that, there's a lot of kindness in the community. There's a lot of thoughtfulness. There's a lot of people that are really wanting the best for the town and for the club, and love what's going on, and we feel that as well. So I have to remind myself in those moments when you're being called stuff that you haven't been called since you were outside Gulliver's in 1989. I probably deserved it then, though, in fairness.
You can't go in those shoes.
It's open again now.
I'm not going back. There's a lot of bad memories down there. Some memories at all.
It's a steep staircase.
Yeah. I'll tell you another one on social media. So there's a lot of places I don't look that shall remain nameless for reasons that you'd be obvious. But my wife collared me over Christmas, and she was like, "Oh yeah, you've got 32 billion quid. Where you been hiding it?" And I was like, "Well, she looked on one of the websites, and someone had claimed to got that much money." And she's like, "Seriously, if you're torching money away somewhere, you're squirreling money away somewhere, you'll be getting lawyered up." I was like, "Where's this come from?" So those fake news accusations are causing me personal issues in my marriage as well. But on that, there's a long-winded way of saying, on the whole, look, we love this club and we love this town, and I think what we're trying to do collectively for the long term is focus on how we can use the club as an asset to sort of rejuvenate what people think about this town. At the same time, we're super focused on the near term, right? All the stuff people are commenting about, the players and the manager and the club in general. We think about it every day, every hour. It's consuming our time. So, but at the same time, we want to do this differently. We don't want to be reacting, as you've seen today. It'd be interesting to see what fans think about that performance. Those ones that were calling, for Paul's head, a few weeks ago. So it's just interesting. You got to try and satisfy the near-term requirements whilst trying to focus on the long-term as well. And that's a balance that we take on.
And I'll just maybe add to that. I mean, the balance definitely with Paul is to say, look, think about when we come to January, for example, think about not just the end of this season, but also next season and going forward. Not just try and, because every single year for the last several years we've just cleared everyone out at the end of the year, and then kept 3 or 4 players as a core, and then gone forward. And I think we need to think a little bit longer and harder about that, which is also a reason why we're very focused on the academy, very focused on the sort of the work in the community that's being done to try and find those those young local talents. We saw today when Max Wright came on and Harry had a great game as well. How the fans react to our own, and that's what we want to build.
And just back to your question, sorry, I realise I'm tendency for rambling, as you know now, but one of the things that I is really different. So I've noticed that once I stepped up being a CEO, that you can directly influence an organisation more as a CEO in a traditional business, and traditional being whatever other type of business it is, just by sheer force of personality or experience or skill set. If there's a deal happening, if there's a decision needs to be made, if there's personnel stuff, where it's quite an unusual dynamic that whilst you can set up all the infrastructure for the club to be successful on the playing side, ultimately you don't make those decisions. You shouldn't make those decisions, we believe. We hire a manager to get the best squad that we can, build for the long term and get the performance out of those things. Whereas, in a normal business, if there's something going wrong or there's something that needed attention, if you haven't got the people in that, you can normally step into that and influence that just by the nature of, your skill set.
You wouldn't want to see Jason on the pitch, put it that way.
We've got a question about
I was going to say, though, given injuries and suspensions, it might get to that point at some point.
I could just about run on with a sponge.
Has it been... Is it a heavier burden than you expect? Burden is probably the wrong word, but a weight of responsibility. Is it more than you thought? You've probably, Debbie aside, you've both got experience within the club previously and sort of where it was held within its community. Yeah. Do you think it's heavier than you initially thought?
No, I mean, I just think I think one thing's been. I mean, one of the other wonderful things I should mention is the fact that Andrew and I are so aligned in what's friendship and partnership now that is. It's completely aligned on what we think, But it's interesting that you don't become entrepreneurs without enjoying pressure. So, nothing in life that's ever worth having comes easy. So, the nature of how we've chosen our careers and how we've spent our time taking high risk in businesses is that you quite enjoy it as well. So it's perverse, and this is another thing my wife will tell you, is that entrepreneurs have a weird part of their brain that quite enjoy when things are difficult, because it's challenging and you grow and you learn. So the other day with the badge stuff, I was like, my first reaction was I was upset by it, and then what I'll do with the decision is I'll process it, I'll go away for half an hour, I'll think about it, I'll write about it, put ideas down, and then come up with an answer. And I really enjoy that process. So it's sort of on a meta level, well, actually, you don't want things to go wrong. When they do go wrong, it's where you come alive. All the best points in your career are the stuff when stuff's gone wrong. That's the stuff you remember, not when things go well, really. So the pressure's been great, enjoying it, but as long as it's done from respect, I'd say.
I think you always. I mean, we all make mistakes. We're all human, and so the most important thing is to learn from the mistakes and not repeat them. And that's something that in my regular business life, I really push down into the team the whole time. We spend days talking about mistakes we've made in a property deal, and make sure that not just I don't repeat them, or the team doesn't repeat them, but everyone who ever is part of the team going forward. So it's that level of burden, to use your word, Alex. It is there. And clearly, we're doing everything from a perspective of being fans, but equally, as we said many times before, we haven't done this before. So, by being fans and by approaching this, we are looking to try and make every decision based on an unemotional approach as possible. But at the same time, you can't escape the fact that there's a lot of emotion involved, as we saw today with that great equaliser.
I just build on it as well. In my book, still available on Amazon, by the way. I think it's slightly discounted now. But in chapter 6, well, I think it was. I'm just referencing there as well for those that haven't read it. Cracking read, not my words. That was my mum's words, actually. There's a thing about organisations will fail and will make mistakes. And there used to be in the old world of business, people execute on linear plans and hoped you didn't fail. And in the new world of business, adaptability and responsiveness to mistakes is one of the biggest characteristics. So not making mistakes. If you don't take a risk and try stuff and try and change and adapt, you'll never progress an organisation. It's the ability to respond to that change that's most important. I think I'm paraphrasing there, but go on, Alex. Sorry,
sounds a good read. Sounds a good read.
No one ever learned anything from succeeding. You only learn from mistakes.
I mean, all the biggest moments of my career are responding to failure and what you learn from that, and how you respond, and how the people around you respond, and how it's got Nassim Talbot, anti-fragile. The idea that you take an organisation and you stress test it, and actually only learns when it grows scars and when So I think for me, all the best moments in my career have been how people respond to pressure and how people respond to failure in inverted commas.
Just to kind of maybe put two and two together a little bit on something you've both mentioned as we've been starting, you've said about football being about we live for the moments, and then obviously you've mentioned about maybe a little bit of disappointment, if that's paraphrasing a little bit, in the way that maybe people aren't looking at the other things that are going on as well. But do you think that is literally because as football fans they're looking at things literally in the moment of the result and the performance, rather than having that wider view and that strategic, actually, yeah, all right, the moments maybe aren't there at the moment, or they haven't been over the past few months with the run, but everything that's going on behind the scenes is laying the foundation for more of those in the future to happen?
Well, I hope so. I mean, we've stated before, and I think it's still true. Well, it's definitely still true, which is improving the football legitimises and gives us the licence to do all the other stuff as well. So, no Undertaker's bottom of the league, crap performances every week, no effort. If we, had a new badge and maybe a new website, it's just not going to wash right. But it's not either or. That's the issue for us, is that, this is where the criticism I do respond a little bit to, which is, the assumption that we're just sat doing that stuff alone and not thinking about supporting Paul, improving the infrastructure, the work Andrew's doing, trying to research whether we can get a new trend. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And it's that idea that you've only got limited, headspace or capability or to be able to do one or the other. So, but look, for us, everything begins and ends with improving the football and being competitive. But it's been a really short space of time, hasn't it? That's the thing that was, we can see in the nature of the results. And I got a bit of criticism pre-Christmas talking about there's a Chesterfield game. I genuinely sat there and I thought we played well, we lost 1-0. We were unlucky, and I got piled on online talking about must be, drinking or smoking something. I was like, and that was just interesting. I was like, well, that's a fan's opinion. It's legitimate. It's a game about emotion. But at the same time, the criticism where they go, you haven't bought a £250 striker. That's why we're here. It's not rational. That's the.
Is that why you were plugging your book a moment ago again?
What book was that? Reboot. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
The second one is devoted to either Tishmanga or whoever it is later on in the
Yeah. Maguire Drew from today. That's what it's dedicated to. The next book.
No comment. Has anybody got any other questions before we move on to sort of the people who've kindly put stuff in? We will go through the questions you've sent in on Slido, and we'll try our best to sort of go around them all, kind of like a bus, really. We'll do our best to. We'll get to your destination, but we might not necessarily drop you right outside your door. Anybody got anything before we move on to that? It almost feels like quick fire box or brief sort of style questions at some point. Should we need the elephant in the room or the flag on the trawler? Should we get that out of the way first and just mention about what's going on? Is that worth? Go ahead. Thank you very much for sort of taking away the pain of my flag's controversy and bringing it upon yourselves. So it'd be interesting to know, because I'll be honest, I might be like the Australian presenter who have to apologise to Adele. I haven't read the statement that followed. So it would be interesting to get your ideas of what it was, what the thought process is, and to talk to the guys who listen. Really.
Well, just to give you a bit of background on it. So again, I'm trying not to take too much space on this, but just for context. So about a year and a bit ago, Rich Lyons got in touch with Tom Shoots actually and sent through this idea before actually Andrew and I had seen it. This idea that designer at Apple, lad from Holtney Clay, he was actually with the 20-year gap, I think we lived a few streets away from each other, but he's had a better career than me. He's ended up at Apple in San Francisco, and I've ended up in South Manchester. Anyway, but so he dropped this note saying, look, as a fan, I work at Apple. I noticed that the branding and the badge doesn't quite work digitally. And as someone that works in possibly one of the best digital companies in the world, he'd spent a couple of years finessing this idea. And if you're into design and UX and all that stuff, it's an amazing piece of work that we got for free from a fan. So that was the first thing. So that notwithstanding, when we came in and we spent a bit of time, obviously we want to do the website. That's taken 6 months. We thought we'd tie it in with a rebrand, upgrade the website, and then what we've done is put it out in beta, and then people can feed back on the website like you wouldn't with a normal product. 3 mistakes that we made. So one, the genuine mistake. One, we assumed it was so trivial that people wouldn't be bothered about it. So that's a learning experience for us, right? Because clearly people are bothered, or maybe people are bothered about it with a hangover on New Year's Day. Maybe that's something that was about the time. So that's a fourth mistake, probably. And so one, we thought it was relatively trivial, and it's completely with love and affection and tipping our hat to the history of the club, to the point where, from distance, a couple of times I've looked at it and my eyesight might be not good enough. It's so subtle, Anyway, we got that wrong. The second thing is, on the consultation, we've got two board members that are part of the Mariners Trust, and we had a conversation. They were part of the discussion, and there was a confidentiality thing as well. But we agreed collectively that we thought that them being on the board would be enough, because it was such a subtle change that we could just make this change, and they approved it, and we all collectively said, as a board, we thought it was great. That was a mistake, because they probably, with hindsight, should have taken it out to the broader trust or whatever. And the third one is that we had a whole comms plan that we just stuffed up. A sequence of where we'd announce what it was with Rich's blog post, and then it would go live and people would see it. And it went live before people explained what it was, so people lost their shit. And that's probably fair that they did, because it was a change that we wasn't transparent. We announced it. So it was just the timing of it and everything. We just got it a bit wrong. Now, what I would state is, the fact that Rich has put this effort in free of charge, an amazing piece of work, stand behind it 100% still, but recognise that we'll give people a choice now on whether they like it or not. But the reasons for doing it, update it and modernise it very subtly. But the second thing is, as I mentioned before, it's not like this has been work that's been decided, on the run of losses. We thought, let's not worry about the squad and the team and the run of losses. Let's go and build a new website in a couple of weeks. This has been a 6-month piece of work for us in the club, and it's been 2 years for Rich as well. So the idea that we've paid a load of money to Rich is not true. The idea that we haven't been spending attention on other stuff is not true as well. But look, we got it wrong, and it's a learning opportunity, and this will be chapter 1 in my next book, probably.
I think for me, reading Twitter, it seems that a lot of people reacted without reading the article that went alongside it, and it did really explain why it was done, and that you're not spending money changing all your signage and all that sort of stuff. But I saw a lot of people react before they read it, or may have not even read it now, to be honest. There's
a lovely feature on The Guardian, I think, on Twitter, or is it, where people who try and forward stuff on, it asks you if you want to read the article first. Yeah. And I think, a lot of people just react. And that's look, I do think there's a lot of positive about social media and the connectivity it brings and the conversations and the kindness, actually, I see quite a lot of. The downside is, people just are quite angry sometimes, aren't they? Some of it legit. We made mistakes here as well, but I agree with you. It's like, we thought if the article had gone out before we'd launched it, that would have been ideal, wouldn't it? People knew it was coming and why we were doing it, rather than just waking up, 11 o'clock on New Year's Day and seeing a new badge for the club. I can see, in fairness, joking, I can see why people would be pissed off at that, and we hold our hands up to that. That was a mistake, and so what we decided is that we're going to go out with some choice. We haven't quite worked out the logistics for that, but in the next week or so, there'll be some sort of mechanism to make sure that the one thing I'm worried about is making sure any town fans can vote on it. So whether that's through the trust or whether that's through Slide, I've got
just
to
work a giant image of a Lincoln in, riding an iron bar. It's now our new logo.
Yeah, we got that one through. Actually, we quite liked it, but we thought it wouldn't go down well. So, but look on this one, I think putting it out to fans. I think most people, once they've read the explanation, see the quality of work, see that it's come from the heart, from a fan who works from the best companies in the world. It'd be difficult to see why people would not agree to that. But understanding that, look, in marketing, you're in marketing, right? Marketing is the worst part of any business, because everyone's got an opinion on it, absolutely everybody, and it's difficult because it's not data led often. So you've got to listen at the same time. But hopefully we can get this through and put it behind us now.
I think, don't you just want to thank that they've got brand guidelines now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted the other day, this is so niche for me, but just to see marketing talk and brand guidelines, and you've got people in comms role and digital role. I just love to see it, because we've never had anything like that before.
It's just look. I mean, staying in the obvious with my background, it's a digital world predominantly these days. So we've got to think first and foremost about is the brand representing itself in the right way online and consistency, and then over time there'll be all kinds of commercial opportunities from that to use something that actually makes sense digitally. But I reckon that we did a poor job on the comms, but I'm glad you appreciate it.
Well, we need to say thank you for the double dot on the
Oh, you said that last comment was niche. That's even more niche, isn't it?
Well, I like the fact that it's a PNG as well. Like, I mean,
going deep niche. That
that used to rankle Summit Rotten with just a block. And then, yeah, anyway, I'll stop because it makes me angry.
We'll finish on the apology though. Look, we covered this royally, but we stand behind the decision. We stand behind the motivation. Please go and read the articles if you can, and we'll get some sort of vote out there soon.
Right. Okay. Quick fires, I guess. So the one that most people wanted to know more about is what's happening with disabled fans and what potentially facilities, I guess, put in place, or what plans maybe going ahead for those guys who get rather wet.
So the first thing I would say is that we didn't want to do anything without consulting with those fans. So, I think that was really important, that we talk to the fans and understand what their feelings are about the facilities for disabled fans. So we met with them in December and discussed proposals. We had an architect draft up some potential solutions. Those went down really well in the discussion. So we've gone away to work on those, and it's a really important piece of work for us.
It's really good, and my dad, who looks after Jack, who's 94 years old, and comes and the people that look after him and Jack are fantastic. It's just, I guess they're now in the pit is the wrong word, but in that section where it's not amazing. It'll be great if they get something and anything to make their walk over the flagstones to Blundell Park is much appreciated. I guess the next question as well is what's happening with the women's team. Dale left his post and went on. It's gone from our side. It feels it's gone a bit quiet. What are the plans? What's happened with that? And what are the plans for the women's team in the future to sort of bring it closer to the fans who want to watch and learn more about them?
Yeah. So I don't know if people are fully aware of this actually. So the women's team is part of the community trust. So it's not owned by the football club. It's not, we don't run the trust per se. However, obviously there's strong ties and there's an opportunity for us, with the work that we're focused on longer term in the community. What the trust does is going to be brought closer into the heart of what we do every day. So, but for now, we were surprised. But I met Dale a few times when he first called me when we'd done the deal. We said to him, "Look, there's a load of stuff needs doing, and we're committed to the women's game. We've got to sequence it. We've got to start with the first team facilities, and we're 7 months in." 8 months in now, so we're committed to the women's game, but it's got to be at the right point and the right point where we can fund it properly and look at that. So we were surprised by Dale. We didn't know that Dale was going to resign. We saw it on Twitter like everyone else, and that's an issue for the trust itself. So what I would say is we're committed to the women's team, but we haven't got plans at the moment of how we're going to invest in it. There's so much other stuff we're focused on. And I know that's disappointing to hear for any females that are listening to this that think, but we are committed to it, but there's just loads of things that were prioritised at the moment alongside it. So I think what we'll say is we'll come back with a plan within the next 12 months, but it's got to be a part of the trust run it today. So we don't run the trust. So so we've got to think about where the trust sits in our longer term vision, and pretty clearly it's more important than less, but we've got to work through the mechanics of that. But Dale's done a brilliant job. I mean, the women's team was the genesis of his idea, right? So we've got to thank him as well for his hard work and what he put together. And we, on a personal level, I met him a few times. I was disappointed that he left, but that's a personal decision for him. Over time, we want to think about how we make the women's team part of the club's success for the long term. That'll be part of our legacy, hopefully, and when we do move on in whenever that is that we've established proper infrastructure for the women's team at the heart of what we're doing, because it's so important. And I should state, by the way, it's important on a personal level for me as well. I'm dad of a 13-year-old girl and a 10-year-old boy. I go out of my way to make sure that my daughter looks at what I'm doing and feels like it's as much of an opportunity in the future for her as it is for my son. And we're letting her down and we're letting females down on the women's side at the moment. We will put that right over time, but we've got to be realistic about the other things that we're doing as well. Is there anything else to add, Debbie? Was that fair?
No, I would agree with all of that.
I think that's right because, like you say, it's the women's game is growing nationally and globally. And my daughter plays, and some of her teammates, if they want to go to the next level, they travel to Lincoln, because Lincoln have got a structure where they can play under 11s, under 12s, whereas we obviously just got the ladies team at the moment. So that's good to hear that for the future it's going to be something that's considered.
Definitely.
Well, currently our women's team are training at Market Raisin and playing at Brick. That doesn't sit right with me. that doesn't feel right for Grimsby Town Football Club.
MK ladies. But no, it's good. It's good to hear, and and like you say, it's just another thing in the grand scheme of what's got to go on. We've got a question. The next question's from Justine, who says, any news on negotiations for streaming National League to abroad supporters for next season? If we promote, will iFollow? I know iFollow's the league only, but he said here is, will iFollow be implemented on our new website?
So I guess there's no update at the moment. We're waiting for the National League to provide us with a copy of the BT Sport contract, which is taking a little bit of time to extract from them, so we can actually maybe try and help them to deliver the sort of needs of fans in that respect. So kind of watch this space, I think, still in that regard. Hopefully, as and when we do get promoted, then naturally we'll be maximising the ability to broadcast as widely as possible, because I think we all learned last season, the season before, how many fans we reach with the live games on iFollow. So it's something we definitely want to make sure we take care of.
And can I just a slightly tangential point? But if it's Justin, I think is in the Norway. No, so this is one of the wonderful benefits of social media. Right? Justin got in touch with me when we did the deal and said hello, and I didn't know we had a group of supporters in Norway. The reason for supporting the club are quite interesting. It was like basically they tried to pick one of the worst teams. He said, I think. But look, we take the fans, right? Norway or not, but I just say hello to Justin. It's lovely. That's one of the benefits of social media. You got in touch, and we've got a group of supporters in Norway. So just say hello to Justin if he's listening, and hopefully we'll see you at Brundle Park soon as well.
I think in general as well, social media in the last couple of years has made me realise just how many exiled fans we've got at home and abroad. We've got a big pool of fans, that sat around the table. There's two or three who don't live in the town, and that's on our side, on the pod side. So I think anything that the club and the trust can do in the future to tap into that resource, because it is we've got a lot of people that have moved away, and getting them back to Blundell, because it's all right us taking 400 or 500 to Leyton Orient, but we don't make any money out of that, do we? And if we can get people home, or we can find a way, like you say, hopefully of tapping into that somehow, that would be really good.
I think there's a bigger point as well about just and maybe this is a bit personal, but the idea about what you value in your identity as well. I've talked about this before, but being from Grimsby is one of my proudest things that I lean on and leverage when I talk about anyone that's worked with me. I've bored them to death over the last 40 years about being from Grimsby and what it's about. And I think in an age where this homogenised culture, and anyway, the idea that you're from a place, you're connected deeply, is a real source of pride. So I think it goes beyond almost like the revenue opportunity. I think there's a whole upswell of like positivity and feeling connected and rooted to a sense of place. And so that manifests itself both in how we can support people who are exiles through video or through opportunities to come to games they want to, or also in a way that people that want to be connected back to the town, and people have talents or skills like Rich Lyons again, or like the numerous people that are getting in touch to try and offer their capabilities.
Or the coding idea.
Yeah, the coding idea as well. The thing
was
we did
brilliant.
here. So there's a bunch of people who've got skills and talents that are so passionate about being from this town as equal to the people that live in the town, and both are important and both are valuable, and we need to leverage both.
I would really like to start telling more stories about those fans, exiled fans. I just think they are heartwarming. It's immense when you read some of that stuff on social media, and the effort that people go to connect with the club, stay connected, travel to games. It's just we've met fans, haven't we? On match day that have spent 8 hours in the car. It's just fantastic.
That was just from Scather, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They keep building houses there.
Are you going to start talking about the 14 mile an hour on the M180 now? Yeah.
The lad from Plymouth's the best. Oliver Swaby, is it, that comes from Plymouth regularly with his family?
It's amazing. It's amazing. But and again, it's rooted in the community for everyone that's from the community. And whilst people who live in Gaxley Day today, I think you're right, Bruce, is that there's a real opportunity. There's a bigger point for me as well. So we're trying to do something outside of the club called the Grimsby Alliance, which is trying to activate all the people that love the town, that are from it, that might have gone off and had careers in finance or entrepreneurs or government or whatever, to say, look, we're still here. There's loads of opportunity to get involved and get amongst it. So, it's a whole other conversation maybe. But I think it's an untapped reserve of both energy, positivity, and resources, financial resources, or potential.
It is amazing. Like I'm lucky enough to meet lots of people in different industries, and you always find the person from Grimsby. There are 4 people that I speak to in our sector who are all Grimsby fans, and that's all. We meet up at events, exhibitions, whatever, and then 3 hours later we walk off after having talked about nothing but when is Sam Bell coming on, and what do we think currently? I mean, I guess coming back to that one as well, is that if you haven't seen the contract, is there a reason why? Because there are some sad acts, me included, that would like to watch the match after, because we don't get to. We have to listen to Humberside, which is fine. Scott, you do all right. But we would love to watch it. The highlights are great, but it doesn't give us that full. Have you been told at some point, no, you can't put full match highlights up on the website?
We have.
We have, yes.
Bastards. That is terrible. Dave Barnaby has asked, and some people ask us quite a bit as well, talk about the main stand is a very boring name for the main stand. I mean, it's granted it's quite old and it's earned it. We've obviously now sat in the Alan Buckley suite. Are there plans in the future to maybe go out and maybe change the name of that, or
not based on the response to the badge and the flag on the badge? I can commit to a consultation that will be lengthy and probably over a sequence of a decade to make decisions. On a serious note, it's like that.
Maybe put a flag on it.
Yeah, well, there's I think there's an opportunity to look at that stuff over time. Again, in terms of sequencing priorities at the moment, no. And I think actually I'd push back to fans and to the trust maybe. Say, look, if this isn't a decision that Andrew, Debbie, or I should make. If fans feel passionate about this, then the trust has to. But if the 2 members of the board felt that there was a groundswell of opinion that wanted this stuff doing, this shouldn't be the whim of one of us. So,
bring it to the board.
Yeah, what I would suggest is one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about recently is, but what I've loved about the podcast over the years is that there's a lively debate. It's not happy clappers, to come a phrase I know Bruce likes. It's like, okay, it's just gone red, it's gone bright red then. So, but this idea that we can be critical of stuff, but you don't look to the board to get amongst it, get involved. I always, one of my famous quotes is "Man in the Arena" quote that some of you might know about. It's not enough just to moan and stand on the side. Get in there, get involved, do something. Don't just shout from the sidelines. And if you want to see the stands named differently, run a campaign, get involved with the trust, become a member. See if you can get people interested in it and bring it to the board. You shouldn't be looking to the board to make a decision. It should be something that fans want to do. So we're not for or against it. I think it's a nice idea.
Stand coming up.
I think with 2 seats on the board, that my opinion is that anybody that's a fan should be a member of the trust, because then you've got a say, you've got a voice, you can't stand back and complain when something's happened because you've put the people in post in the trust board, and they've made the decisions, and I don't, I just think all fans, and I mean it sounds like an advert for the trust, but it's a £5 a year for kids, and they get so much for a £5.
And actually, I had to build on that as well, because it's like, just to sort of quell any fears and that, it's like, one of the critiques of the trust historically is it hasn't been an active board. It's an active board, and Dave, and Christine have a strong voice and dissent on things, and as they should, like any board structure. So I don't want people thinking that they're sat there making up the numbers. It's an active board, and they have a strong voice in all decisions that we make, and they've been brilliant. And we don't agree on stuff, but boards shouldn't, right? But you're right, Bruce. I think through their objectivity and independence, they should bring things like that to the board. But we're not, and the priority for us, we're not going to make decisions ad hoc. Like, again, I'm joking now about plugging my book, but I did talk about CEOs shouldn't make all the decisions in the business. The business and customers in a normal business or supporters in this environment should decide what they want from the organisation, and then come through the board structure, through Christine and Dave and the trust, to have a debate about it. But otherwise, it's just an opinion, and as we know from recent events, opinions are fairly easy to come by, but actual objective viewpoints and things that are supported and substantiated take a bit of time and effort.
It's not a case of making change for change's sake either. It's when things need to be done, can be done, they'll be done, and we'll do what we can to make sure the fans' voices are democratically heard on everything that's needed.
Can I just change to one that is fact, or will be fact, that you might be able to give us a quick answer on, perhaps Debbie, maybe? Is the club aware of the fact that the Notts County game away is scheduled to be on the same day that Nottingham Forest are at home? and do it. It's only in just over a month's time, and people have asked, obviously starting to make travel plans. Can't see, see the police allowing that. But yeah, it's a quirk of the fixture list that they're playing Coventry at home on the day that we're playing away at Notts County.
That's a great insight.
It is insight, yeah.
Presumably the bigger game will have priority, so that
You would imagine, but I mean, had they been playing a smaller club, a Dover or somebody like that, but I can't imagine them wanting fans of 3 largish clubs in the town on the same day. So perhaps, I think that would be good if you can find out about that and come back to the fans and let them know what's going on, because the league obviously haven't noticed either.
Yeah,
funnily enough.
Thank you.
It might link into something you've just been talking about, really, about people getting involved a little bit. But apparently the Wickham owner, and this is from Jordan, who submitted this, by the way, has mentioned on a podcast that he looked into buying the club some time ago, but didn't, because he thought with the area there might be issues with recruiting and attracting talent. And I would imagine that that's not just on the playing side, but also what you term as the backroom stuff, I guess, as well. Is that anything that you've found to be an issue, or is...
That's Von Coig, isn't it? Well, everywhere's far away from it. It's in South Carolina, I believe, isn't it? So everywhere's a bit of a schlep. Interesting that he knew where Grimsby was, actually. Let me just... I knew that historically before we came in, but obviously those things are bound by confidentiality. But from our point of view, look, it's both a blessing and a curse.
Double-edged sword, yeah.
It's like, look, we should have access to every bit of talent in this part of the world, right? And it's more about the women's game, but the fact that people have to go down to Lincoln. We need to make sure that every kid that comes through has talent should stay in this area. That's the number one priority for us. In terms of players, one of the things that has surprised me actually is, when you think about the sort of how hard it is to become a professional footballer, the fact that there are people that will go to clubs if clubs are both offering the right sort of financial recompense and also the culture is important. We've talked to some of the players who the culture matters, and players talk a lot about if you're going to come on loan or you're going to come to a club, are they respected? How are the fans? Are they treated well? What's the values of the organisation? And we think that's our USP. I think if we're going to have to compete on money alone and we'll be competitive, then it's an arms race, right, on who can pay the most, and it's just not, it lacks imagination. But if you can be an attractive culture and place that respects the players and everyone in the organisation, they'd want to come here, them and their families, over time. That's a differentiator, and you don't see a lot of that. There's some clubs that are better at it than others, but when you talk to the players, it's quite rare, I think, for what the feedback that we're getting there. That should be a consideration. So we're hoping that differentiates.
And I'd imagine more so at this level as well, probably quite rare compared to your bigger names, perhaps, maybe. Maybe, yeah. I mean, again, it's difficult to know. We're getting feedback, but again, in our learning curve, we're starting to understand as we talk to the players about, even we had a couple of players. I mean, I think this is a great secret, that said to us, the training facilities, having a kit man, changing the chef and stuff, just up the professionalism of the organisation. A couple of lads that we said it's the first time they felt like a professional footballer. And the fact they didn't have to take their kit home and wash it. And it was just what the history is, what it is. But we think by doing stuff like that, those incremental changes, they add up to big differences. And you had a culture where players come to the club and feel wanted and welcomed and taken care of, and not just them, their families and everyone around them. I think that's the similarity I see with other businesses. If you focus on the culture and make it a place where people want to work and be involved and be committed to each other. Whereas there's a lot, it's quite transactional. That surprised me with football. The way people trade contracts and stuff, it's really dispiriting in some ways. The players are traded economically just on the fact they get a contract or 50 quid more or whatever. And you think it'd be a bit more strategic than that. So we think we've got to make sure that's taken care of financially. But if you ally that with a culture where people feel part of something that isn't just being hauled into the boardroom at 5:15 on a Saturday, we just don't do that. We're not going to do that. And we're more thoughtful about responses with them and how we want the culture to be. We think that'll be a differentiator, but time will tell, I guess.
We had some lovely feedback for example, from Riley when he went back to Bristol, about his time at Grimsby. Well, Riley Towler will go back to Bristol and talk about how we genuinely do care, hopefully, about our players and that culture that we're wanting to build. And he'll talk to other players, and and then people will really realise that we're not just saying this stuff; we're doing it behind the scenes. Fans won't always see that. But there's so much going on behind the scenes to as Jason and Andrew have said, to build for the longer term and to make that difference. There'll be a lot of stuff that we do behind the scenes that would definitely, in time, make a difference on the pitch. But fans won't see that immediately.
I mean, one of the things I'm really interested, Alex. One of the things I'm really interested in is, players have relatively short careers as well. And it's almost like, for those players that are more senior, at the end of their careers, they basically just popped out at the end of a system when their contract's ended and left to their own device. And it just seems to me there's stuff like that about how you consider people. So I one of the things that's not in the book, but if you work with me and we work together over a period of time, is that's a lifelong relationship. It doesn't stop when we stop working together. I'm interested in you and your career and your family, and it just doesn't happen in football. It's kind of like the contracts end, and it's kind of like they don't wave you off. I think they just kind of shove you out the back door, and someone comes in through the front. And it just seems to me that if you're valued, you perform better in every walk of life. If you feel valued, if your criticism is both fair and done in a way that you can respond to, then you can work at your optimal level as well. So that seems to be something that we could definitely improve on as an industry, I think, as football. That's just one example where it surprised me in the last year.
And I guess with Bristol City, we've had, 3 players come through on the loan system in the last 12, 18 months. I guess that helped. I guess we're building quite a strong relationship with those guys in the southwest, I guess.
Well, it's that point David made about, look, if Riley goes back and says it's a shithole, they don't care about us, and all they think about is just Saturday afternoon, that's it, and that alone. But yeah, with some lovely conversation with him when he left. Delighted to see him in the team this weekend at Bristol as well. He's a great lad, got an amazing career ahead of him. But as David said, over time, if people know, when in any organisation, the scepticism about what you're talking about in your culture is fair. Cynicism isn't fair. And I think for us, it's like, but people's scepticism only goes away when you're seen consistently over a long period of time to do what you say you're going to do. But it matters, we want to bring loan players in or players at different stages of their career. If they know that they feed back and they talk to other players, that'll help us over the term. So I think that's brilliant. It does matter, I think, is the point I'm trying to make.
It's one of the reasons why I don't totally base myself at Blundell Park, because I want to know how it feels at the training ground. The football isn't my area, but I want to know how it feels. What if the facilities are well? Are the players? Do they look like we're meeting their needs? Are things as good as they can be? That's really important.
Yeah, definitely. Something which Mike Freeman raises, which is quite interesting, is Grimsby's now becoming more diverse in sort of its demographic. And are the club looking to do anything to encourage a more diverse fan base?
I think that's a really good point. It sits very much at the heart of our values, and I would hope that everything we're doing actually is about ensuring that we're meeting that those diverse needs. So I would hope that, given all the improvements that we've made and all the improvements that we're planning to make, that diversity would run through us like a stick of rock. It is very much part of our values. So.
Yeah, it matters, Hannah, I would say, to all of us, both on a personal level and on the sort of strategic level. But without sort of come back to the same answer, that's being a member of the trust. What do people want to see? How can we make it more inviting? How can we make it more welcoming for everybody? We want it to be. We want it to reflect our values and the broader society. So if people have got ideas of things that we could be doing, then definitely feed through the trust or feedback directly, because we're keen to hear on that. It matters.
I think there's another element to it as well, which is through the community trust. That they do a lot of great work in that area, and we want to, again, the great thing about the trust, whilst it's not controlled by the club, it's clearly a very, very close relationship. We can feed into that any needs or desires that people have in that respect.
Yeah, it would be great to hear more about the work that the trust are doing, because myself personally, it's not something I read a lot about, and I live Lincoln Way and read a lot about what their similar organisations doing. So it would be great to hear more of that.
Yeah. I mean that's one of the things that we'll commit to in sort of during 2022. It's getting more and having, again, control of the website now and being able to curate a little bit better the content that's going on there. The trust is something that we very much want to amplify. It's something that we've said right from the start.
There's a bit again, Anne, about the sort of priorities. We that's massively important to us. But again, we're going to get the structure and the organiser. But it does amazing work. There's a load. It was one of the things through the diligence that we were just surprised at. As fans, we'd heard nothing about all the different schemes they run, all the programmes they've got in the community. So for me, it's kind of like it's a jewel that isn't really publicised. So we want to make sure that we're getting the right governance around it, the right people around it as well, and supporting everything that goes on there. And there's a broader point there as well about comms, generally communication, and the sort of sequencing. There's one bit of feedback that I think I got personally about that they haven't heard from me for a while. And I was like, well, we'd only talk when there's stuff to talk about as well, but sort of acknowledging maybe if fans would like a regular forum, we talk to the trust about this, maybe if you guys will have us, we come on the pod every 4 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever, we commit and we schedule that, fans forums maybe 2 or 3 times a year. But we're going to talk to Dave and Christine about that to say what do fans want? We want to be available, but at the same time, one of the things we're really keen not to do is just endlessly be putting out statements just because it's a certain time of the week. We want to make sure we've got something substantive to say that's meaningful. And it's done in a professional way. So maybe we'll pick that up with the trust to say what's the right frequency. So there's a touch point that people can make sure that will be available. So I was on the BBC today early on. Whenever we're asked, either Andrew and I go on, we try and find a way of double teaming on that. So we'll keep doing that, but maybe just a more systematic way so people know every month we'll be here, or doing something with the trust as well. Will be a way that people at least know that there's a regular touch point as well.
When we get to part 34 of Jason reading chapter 6 of his book, we know.
Is there an audio book?
There could be, yeah. Actually, if someone buys it, I'll come round to your house and read it to you directly. That sounds a bit creepy. I just realised that, doesn't it?
Sounds a bit cheap for a final.
Yeah.
CBB's book at bedtime is now taking a dark turn.
Yeah.
I guess there's it's nice to have come in this after what feels like a win after that performance. I guess I should really throw over to you. Is there anything else you'd like to talk to the fans about before we sort of wrap it up? Because I think we've covered most of the questions, really, apart from when is the next Chairman's Challenge and what position will Jason, Andrew, and I guess Debbie as well, will be playing?
There are no plans. I can quash that straight away. Look, the older I get, the better footballer I was. It's that sort of inverse relationship. So, but no, there's no. I mean, I think there's nothing worse than seeing a 52-year-old bloke in a tight-fitting kit trying to run more than 10 yards without coughing up blood.
No, I'll stick to five-a-side. Nothing on Blundell Park.
I desperately want to be in that Mighty Mariner costume doing a bit.
We can arrange that. We can arrange that. We can arrange. That's not.
You'd have asked a few years ago. You could pay to do it.
I'll tell you what, again, to a joke aside, whether people want to see that stuff. I mean, I really enjoyed the Broadley Day was amazing, right? There's no reason why we don't do more of those. That's more interesting than seeing Andrew and I try and play. I would suggest anyway, but I think the stuff like that was an amazing day, right? Where as a pre-season to see so many ex-pros and people in the community coming in, it was such a lovely family day. I prefer to see that rather than us. But look, I'd say go through the trust. If you want to see that stuff for some perverse reason, maybe I can come round to your house and keep a ball up for 10 keep-ups and read you my book as well.
Really creepy now.
I knew about 10 keep-up still, I think. So we had like a little bonus deal.
That's not bad at all. Is there anything you would like to pass on to fans that we maybe not have touched on? I guess people have asked, what are the next steps? What can we expect? I mean, apart from a vote on a badge, what is next that maybe you can talk about?
Or maybe I touch base on the training ground, which is something that again I know people kind of commonly ask about. It's something that we're still, again, one of the examples of things that we're working on very hard behind the scenes. We've got a location now that we really like. We're working hard to basically get the design together and work together with various stakeholders to bring it forward. I think it's fair to say that if we're able to pull it off, it'll be a massive upgrade on existing facilities in terms of scale, both scale in terms of number of pitches, facilities, all-weather facilities, community facilities, etc. But until we're at a point that you'll appreciate certain things have commercial confidentiality. We've got to be quite careful about. We don't want to bring things into the public domain until everything's buttoned down, because that would be pretty bad if we messed it up for that reason.
But the only thing I'd say is, look, it's a border point again about get involved. Like there's go and have a look at the Man in the Arena quote. I've lived my life by it. This idea that opinions, everyone's got one, but actually, if you want to make a difference, take a risk, get involved, put your hand up, get in the arena, and really try and be part of a solution. For us, Well, I'm personally, I don't talk for Andrew or Debbie, but like I've been underestimated my whole career. I mean, it's a lovely thing, coming from Grimsby and walking into rooms I've walked into. But, never mistake informality for a lack of ambition, a lack of drive, a lack of commitment. And people have made that mistake about me my whole life. And that sounds a little bit threatening. I've seen the looks in your eye. But look, I've loved it. Like, the thing about Grimsby is the rod of steel we all have through us, right? Is that no one will beat us when it comes toe to toe and going for a fight on stuff. We're committed and we're tenacious and we're ambitious, but there's nothing wrong with kindness as well. There's nothing wrong about being positive. I've spent my life, being angry when I lived around here and being less angry and more positive. And I tell you which one works better for you when you're trying to build organisations. So my thing is, have a look at the Man in the Arena quote for people by Roosevelt and just get involved. Come on the podcast. Start a podcast like you guys have done, or or other ideas could be join the trust, or volunteer, or whatever it is. But just shouting from the sidelines without stepping into the arena, having a go yourself. We're committed to the long term, and just the happy clapper stuff for me is like don't mistake positivity for lack of drive, ambition, or guts. Because you don't do the things that Andrew's done or that I've done in my career without being committed to stuff and being tenacious. So, a bit of respect around that would be nice. But at the same time, look, we all want to be part of this success together. When we get there, wherever there is, it's going to be a collective effort of all the fans, the whole supporter base. Get amongst it, get involved. And we want feedback, we want criticism, but let's try and do it from a place of respect as well, I'd say.
Yeah, and I guess we say the same from the podcast. If you want to get involved, please do send us a message, because at times it's like herding cats with these gentlemen, trying to get everything organised. It's been you're always at work, but it's anybody's more than welcome to join in and get involved, because it's you never know where it can lead to. Yeah,
and I guess I'd finish on that today was the epitome of the support when things weren't going as well. The end of a very different result in Saturday's Estate, and the fact the fans got behind that. That's just incredible as well. So there's a vocal minority sometimes that we shout quite loud, but that was amazing today. And seeing people, things weren't quite clicking, still behind the club in the 90th minute was phenomenal. And so that's what Grimsby's about. That's why we threw our hat in the ring to get involved ourselves. Is that we know on the days when it's going like that, there's no better fans than Grimsby fans, because we've been there, we've been fans all our lives, so we know what it's like. So more of that.
Perfect. Great stuff. Thank you very much for all of you joining us, and thank you again. And we will hopefully speak to everybody soon. And thank you all for our delegates as well. Scott,
thank you.
Bruce, Scott's Hannah and Liam, thank you very much. And we shall speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye.